the potential of a yellow resetting things. The gap, by the way, Heinrich to Vanthoor, only 5.3 seconds on the last lap. Vanthoor is just flirting with it. You get the sense that maybe he's got a little bit left if he wasn't forced to save fuel.
This is going to be exciting stuff without any argy-bargy because they've got that 5-second gap or so. It's Mullikins, I believe, front of the picture here, just working through the permutations. When does he unleash Dries? Do they surprise the Porsche? It's going to be hard to respond if you suddenly find we just lost a second.
Consistency of those two cars running 124.5s for the last 20, 30 laps, Calvin. It's been really impressive to watch. And then now the gap is under 5 seconds from Heinrich to Vanthoor, so it's just ebb and flow. They're so tight together, Ryan, on pace here.
If the race ended on that lap, Vanthoor would have won by 41 thousandths of a second on adjusted time. That's how close it is.
It's incredible, and it's going to be like this, I imagine, for the next 14 minutes.
And that might have been an interval that we saw, not at start-finish, but the point remains, it is that time at start-finish, under 5 seconds. Lauren Heinrich, we're on board. Let's listen at the end of Holman Boulevard. Is it still the same amount of lift and coast for the number 120? First, he's got to get through this quick left-right chicane.
There's some traffic up on the horizon as well, and that could play a factor here. It's been really clear track for Wright Motorsports for a while.
Still a pretty substantial lift.
It's a huge lift, but still 5 seconds differential. It's right on the border. The management of this by Heinrich, if this is intentionally managed, he's doing an amazing job, but you kind of want to give yourself a little bit of buffer.
Yes, 44 thousandths is nothing. You do not want that to be what you're counting on to get you this overall win, not just for themselves, but also for Porsche. Again, at the end of the day, the good news for Wright Motorsports is they'd still win in class. It would still be enough to win the championship as well for their full season drivers, but the possibility of winning overall beckons. 12.5 minutes to go. Let's check the gap. Across the yard of bricks, we wait for Vanthoor. Back over 5. Whoa. I don't think that's right.
No, it's 4.8 at the line. It was a 124.7 for Heinrich, a 124.5 for Dries Vanthoor. So that was a little slower lap than Heinrich has been running. We noted the bigger lift into 7, been carefully managed.
The big question is, if they still feel they're tight, how much do they want to risk the championship for the overall win here tonight?
I say not at all.
Exactly. So, we're kind of waiting for Lauren Heinrich to pull the pin here and just go for it, but maybe we'll have to resist that urge.
Can WRT use that to their advantage? They don't necessarily, well, they kind of do. They got to think about Charles Weirt's IGTC championship, don't they? And we know that team cares about it. His dad was in that shot we saw along with Kurt Mullikins earlier, part of the ownership group of WRT. And again, there's also the manufacturer's side of things to keep in mind. Right now, Porsche has enough to get the job done. But if these cars are marginal on fuel, that could really see a major shakeup potentially if cars were to run out on the last lap.
This almost feels harder to me, Calvin, to race to the checkers, managing paces. You'd almost just rather just go for it and leave it up to the drivers, but you can't. You have to manage this fuel, manage the scenarios that you're in. This is a little trickier, I'd have to imagine, behind the wheel.
Oh, very much so, and that's the complexity with this stint length maximum time, that you have to sort of work that into your strategy, which all of the teams did there during the final 70 minutes or so of this race. So you can't just lay your own table here and you just got to live with it.
Fight for third. This is 30 in North America Pro. Trent Hedman has caught Alexander Sims for the final step of the podium. It looks like the championship is out of reach, barring something very dramatic in the final 10 minutes for DXDT Racing. Their streak of 8 straight race wins in jeopardy of being snapped here tonight in Indianapolis. But there is still the opportunity to perhaps be on the podium if Sims can keep Hinman at bay.
That would be a miss, I would think, for him to have 8 straight race wins and then completely miss the podium at Indianapolis. So, I mean, that would be a disaster is probably an exaggeration, but they really thought, I think, coming into the weekend that maybe they had a shot. The pace early in the week wasn't great. In the middle of the race, though, they looked very, very good, and now things are kind of slipping away here.
Yeah, they knew it was going to be a tough day. I think they've really executed the best race they possibly could, but it looks like it's going to come up a little bit shy unless Heinrich runs out of juice here.
Well, Heinrich has backed the pace off a little more. He just ran a 24.9. We're seeing him in fuel save mode about a half a second faster than that at times earlier in this stint. Vanthoor, though, is at a 24.6. He now is well within, I say well within, we're still talking tenths of a second, but in the context of this battle, it feels like he's well within that 5-second margin he needs to be within in order to win this race overall on adjusted time.
Yeah, I just have to feel that Wright Motorsports aren't seeing the numbers they're liking, and they're just telling him you can't go. He actually seems to be backing it off even further, just slightly. But it's enough for Vanthoor to eat into that 5-second margin that he's trying to live with. But you can't afford to go. You can't afford to let the ego get in the way. You can't afford to let that overall victory dampen the quest for a championship.
Heinrich has backed it down about half a second a lap from where they were previously. Vanthoor has as well, but not that far, so that's where the advantage is going. And now it's 4.4, so it's 0.6 that Heinrich would lose this race by if it ended now, Ryan.
But still in position to win the racing class and to win the championship, and that is mission number 1. Okay, so it looks like Regulator Racing still needed to do their final reset as well. They do it. Philip Ellis released, and he'll rejoin the fray. Does that put the 163 now with a chance to perhaps be on the podium? They're quite a ways back, so I don't think so. Practically a lap behind. Looks like Regulator still with a really good chance to be on the podium by the end of this. Hinman continuing to stalk Alexander Sims. This is for 3rd in class.
Certainly played his part as well. All 3 drivers have really stuck to the task. They knew it was going to be a tall order. You can't allow the frustration of the pace of your race car to get into the way of just executing the day. They've done all they could, but it's just going to be a little bit shy the way it's looking.
And for the 63 also, I think there were some unknowns in the endurance aspect of this race. Given all the other races this season are 90 minutes long, the car has held up quite well. Again, they didn't have the pace that they were hoping for, Ryan, but otherwise, things have gone pretty well.
You really can't fault their execution, and their race could have turned on that one full course yellow about midway through the race when their championship rivals, the 120, it looked like they might get trapped a lap down. The overall leader backed the pace off when the safety car came out, and that saved the day for Lauren Heinrich and Wright Motorsports. They're in this position in part, in no small part, because of the way that safety car intervention played out.
That was a game changer. That was a total game changer. I mean, Wright Motorsports just say, well, our decision, we're leading the race, it was all good, but it wouldn't have been without the timing of that safety car and Wirtz electing to slow down. Adelson there doesn't look happy, or is he happy? Is it kind of a smile, kind of a stressful smile?
Can't read
Maybe he's looking at the data as well, and we should be good, but don't want to smile too early.
This is the WRT brain trust. Right now, Vanthoor easily within the window to win the race overall. It's a 4-second gap.
It was deeper into 7, Calvin.
Yeah, it was. Let's see if he starts to untap it here. They haven't unleashed the rascal yet.
Maybe he's accomplished that number. He went into heavy fuel save the last few laps. In fact, he just ran a 125.1 the last time by, but maybe that's the magic ticket to turn Lauren Heinrich loose.
2/10 quicker on this lap at the moment than Vanthoor. So I said 5 minutes to go. Maybe that's the time when you know you're safe, you're absolutely sure you're safe, then you go.
Heinrich appears to be on the go button, back onto the front straightaway with 5.5 minutes to go. Let's check the lap time this time for the ace, and sure enough, a 124.3. That builds the margin back to 4.4 seconds, not enough yet.
Yeah, he was on it there, right to the brake pedal as well.
We said earlier that this 120 lit the afterburners. They just had to check to make sure they had the fuel to burn in them for the closing stages of this last 5 minutes of this 8-hour race.
Well, they've turned him loose. And this guy is so fast here. There's WRT reacting. They're seeing this now.
Yeah, they thought they were in great shape, and now everyone's looking at the data a little bit more closely. Heinrich's doing his normal thing.
And they still might be all right. They're within 5 seconds. And that's the penalty that Heinrich will be automatically served post-race for that pit lane infraction. They were found to be manipulating their speed, exiting the pits on their final fuel stop. Can he build that margin back over 5 seconds? Can Laurin Heinrich not just deliver a championship to Elliott Skier and Adam Adelson, but take overall victory? And it would be the first overall victory for a Fanatec GT World Challenge America team in this event. That would be significant bragging rights for the operation.
Pretty much identical through the first 2 sectors here, so Vanthoor is responding a little bit as well.
Now, they might have stolen a march, Laurin Heinrich and company, on that first lap, but as soon as WRT saw the stats, they said, all right, Dries, it's time to go. Heinrich at 24.6 will wait for Dries Vanthoor. He runs a 24.7, but only a couple hundredths of a second between them. It's a 4.5 second gap, and we're running out of laps.
Don't have a lot of time left for Heinrich to build this gap back up, so you've got to go now. Everything that you've got in this fuel tank, every ounce of pace you can extract from this Porsche, you need to use now. Vanthoor is going to be on the attack of the Team WRT BMW, Calvin, and it's going to be just a game-on battle. Both players in the game now.
Yeah, is it going to be 3? Is it going to be 4 laps? He just needs a couple of tenths per lap, possibly, to get that half second back. Deep on the brakes there, threshold brake, and you can hear the axles all kind of chirping and trying to find grip there into the brake zone.
Some traffic up ahead too. That looms large as he tries to lay down flyer after flyer. It's qualifying lap time for Laurin Heinrich, and he's the master of qualifying a Porsche here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Multiple poles, more or less, in the last year or so. At least
been fastest qualifier.
Let's put it that
times,
way.
yeah.
Thank you. Clean that up nicely. Oh, inside the final 3 minutes, let's try and do some math here on how many laps we expect to be left in this race. Heinrich, we wait for him to cross the line. He does so now with 2 minutes 34 to go.
So that should be just 2 more laps then.
This lap and 1 more.
Yeah, I think he's going to get the white next lap.
And at this rate, he won't outrun Vanthoor. It's only 200ths better than the 31 at the moment. That's not enough.
That is not enough.
Vanthoor got to within 5 seconds about 6 or 7 laps ago, and he's been able to stay there even after Heinrich was turned loose and started to up the ante. Vanthoor's been able to match him lap after lap. The gap is 4.5 seconds, but he'll have a little traffic to deal with here before this race is done.
About a tenth of a second quicker through sector 1. They're the margins we're looking for, though. If he could put every sector like that, that would be enough over the course of 2 laps.
Lights are out now, and it's just go time. Heinrich has just got to dig deep and extract anything that he can. It's 4 tenths that he needs to find to outrun Vanthoor, the final lap and a half of the Indianapolis 8-hour.
No, Vanthoor responds, goes a little bit quicker than Heinrich through sector 2. They're pretty evenly matched here. Heinrich is not making it happen. He's not finding that advantage to extend the gap.
2 top-level pros at the top of their game. Laurin Heinrich out of the final corner. He'll see the white flag. This time by Dries Vanthoor in the BMW giving chase, looking for victory at Indianapolis. One more time down into turn number 1.
2 front runners there ran lap times within 0.03 of a second.
If anybody slips, it could change the math here. They've got to be perfect on this final lap. Vanthoor does at least. Heinrich has got to do everything in his power. He looked like Superman earlier in this race, but now it might not be quite enough, Ryan.
Laurin Heinrich, the gap is 4.6 seconds now after sector 1. He needs to find another 4 tenths over Dries Vanthoor, and he only has 2/3 of a lap to do it. That's for the overall win. Regardless of that outcome, though, Wright Motorsports began this season back at Sonoma Raceway with a pair of wins. Elliott Skier and Adam Adelson made the jump to the pro ranks for 2024. They started off with those 2 wins. They have not won since. They could break that duck here today. It was a strong middle sector for Lauren Heinrich, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough for the overall win. Nevertheless, the hired gun, the Porsche factory ace, climbs aboard the number 120, comes through the final corner, and will see the checkered flag first. Lauren Heinrich, Adam Adelson, and Elliott Skier cross the line first. Skier and Adelson are the 2024 Pro Class champions. Vanthoor across the line. The gap is 4.7, and on adjusted time, WRT wins overall in the Indianapolis 8-hour presented by AWS. 0.2 of a second. Ultimately the difference there. Now, Engel takes the checkered flag, second in IGTC Pro. Now we wait for the rest of the North American Pro cars, led by Gabby Chavez and Alexander Sims. Patrick Niederhauser shows the way in the Pro-Am class. Robbie Foley just took the checkered flag. That's enough to score first place points in North America. Robbie Foley and Justin Rothberg, they are your 2024 Pro-Am champions, coming back from a 33-point deficit in the final race.
Amazing, what a turnaround. They had the belief, they knew they just had to execute, do their job, and unfortunately for the 38 squad, just dire disappointment with those technical issues aboard that BMW.
You have to feel for those drivers, Samantha Tannadiel, Verhagen, for the effort they put on. They never were out of it. They kept trying and trying and trying, and it just wasn't enough.
How close was the fuel?
Out on the cool down lap.
Wow.